This is a special edition of KPIX Eyewitness News.
2000, cleared RNAV, runway 17 approach. After the completion of your approach, fly runway heading, maintain 2000 for the minute.
Turn right heading 060.
Helicopter 19009, 32 miles from Hayboard, 30 hour Alpha approach into Olympia. Maintain VFR.
And now, an ABC premiere presentation. Firestorm, 72 hours in Oakland. Charlie set approach, that's 10x Helicopter 1. 447 Charlie Roger, maintain VFR, and when able to report the phone, get for information uniform, they'll land to the south.
There is nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are controlling transmission.
Ooh, my frame rates are really low. Oh, I dropped some frames. I'm not sure what is going on here.
If you call out 10,000, 15,000, or speeding up to 310. 4 Romeo Charlie, as you make your turn back down there is traffic about 4 miles north of Olympia on the final 0 Alpha approach. Another helicopter, 2,400. C120.1.
326, actually up, that's a car, which is 0.95. Yeah, 326, you're off, good. Press 2456, speed 170. 170, horizon 2456. Back to the 523.
447 Romeo, Charlie, 10 foot, thank you.
Yeah, we got him. Back to the 523, something, quick, which approach me 16, right?
That'll set off, that's the 54. 700, 5,000, doing a 290, I think. We can do whatever it is. minor contact, only the temperature is come in.
Maintain flight level 350.
It's on the 350.
Alaska 444, good rig, June J.
Direct June J, 444.
11, so let's see, 190, 0 to 16 right, look, Roger, maintain 5,000.
Cessna 6750, South End Brooks.
Alaska 1150, contact data center 135.45. Good day.
3545. That's 501, every night.
Center low compass 5738, checking in 11,600, climbing 15,000, no faster than 299.
Sure, 19009, approach.
709, and stand by for higher.
Really quick flight here. I'm going to see if we can head over. Last night I did some flights around the Bay Area and kind of showed you an example of what the ortho scenery looks like. This afternoon, although it's really tonight, I think I'm going to fly around Mount Rainier. If we can get there in time, we're at the Seattle Tacoma International Airport right now, KSEA, and hopefully we can make it over. But I'm just looking at the sky again. It downloads the latest weather. Looks rather hazy, and I don't know if we've got a nice blue sky. So let me actually check my settings and make sure I've got the right stuff here. Because it does look rather hazy. Let's see here.
24 is in the downwind for runway 34. Requesting 500 foot image.
Oh, can see Mount Rainier. Okay, there's Mount Rainier over there to the left. But let me fix these settings a bit. It doesn't like look that good.
Goes 3458, 10,000 for 15,000, direct Suma.
West 3458, data center, Roger, maintain flight level 350.
All right.
At 350, Scouts 3458.
Release the brake.
Alaska 444, using normal speed.
Let's get going here.
Alaska 444, using normal speed.
Oops. Alright, let me get the autopilot on here just a little bit.
Transponder set to active.
Keep it at that altitude. We're heading toward Rainier over the KSE airport.
Runway 34, 500 foot option, 500 foot, MEG, runway 34, Husky, 24.
I think a heading of 130, probably. Yeah, it's good. We're going to do a bit of a slight climb. At about 700 feet per second in this Cessna 172. flying over Seattle, going in the direction southwest. I'm sorry, southeast. I think that is Interstate 5 that we just flew down there. I think that's Interstate 5. I'm not sure though. Raise my flaps up here. Flap looks a little weird. Let me go back to the left flap. Why does it look like it's stuck? What is that all about? That is weird. Guess I'll just ignore it for now. I think we'll go up to about 5,000 feet and we'll stay there. Right now we're at about just about 3,000 feet, or flight level 30. Not very windy up here either. Relatively smooth. I don't see any issues as far as weather goes. Let me see here. I don't know if I can pull up weather in. I think this will show me weather. Oh, we are picking up some wind now. Just as I spoke.
Normal speed, compass 678, thank you.
Delta Airspace at your present time. Is it maintain that altitude for 172, above land at 2,000, going to traffic 1 o'clock and 4 miles, maneuvering out to indicate a difficult ground line on the ground, the 400 feet. You're okay.
It's awfully busy at the airport tonight.
Northbound. R44 after that. Contact Seattle Center on 1 and 2, 4.2 today.
2135, we'll see you come 2630.
Flight level 45 right now, 46. And let me change our vertical speed here.
72753 Lima VFR request. This is November 2753 Lima. VFR flight following approach to the beginning.
Is that a river or is that a freeway? What is that? This right here, this area right here. Very interesting. And it continues. That's interesting. And we're not too far from Mount Rainier. Maybe we'll climb to 6,000 because I believe I haven't looked at that elevation over there. I know obviously Rainier is, I believe, 14,000 feet. We aren't going to go that high, of course. But we'll head just around the base and kind of do a loop around it, and then we'll head over to Mount St. Helens.
We haven't picked up the weather yet, so we were just about to let you know when we get it up to 458, contact JFL 135.45 today. And we can navigate to the QR? No, what? 3450. Going to hold the 3,000 feet if that's cool with you.
Oh boy.
There's traffic about 3 miles southwest of Narrows, northeast on Navigate 1,000, minor start to right side. 10520, that's outside 50 miles south of Narrows Airport. Say next to the Sun Health.
Buffering there, I'm not sure what else did. Much.
2299, clear direct about it, bro. Thank you to the left, clear to Renton Airport via right turn, heading 250, structure to the I-9 tunnel approach course, and maintain 3 down.
Call 58, 900,000, climbing 15,000.
And November 907, Papa Delta traffic, 4 o'clock and 6 miles southbound, beginning northwest, then here momentarily, 130, 2,500.
Alex, 1258, when it will maintain that 30 or not the greater.
Oops.
300 or better, not clear to 5.
Same direction, they'll be in the same direction for the next at least 6.
Roger,
907 Papa Delta, it is climbing through to 4,000.
Partner 2039, Seattle Center, coming in 17,000. 1,000, right there.
5 will focus on maintain 3. Captain 20414, 10 foot gun.
Canada 557, contact Seattle Center 134.95 today.
Number 5 Zulu, turn right, heading at 3 in Brazil, structure to red, will be at heading at 3 in Brazil. 2850, red, I'm a Captain 20414, squad 037.
American 2654, contact Seattle Center 134.95 today.
495, Mike, 2654.
We're going to have the weather at Olympia. Gas 117, Seattle Center, good deal.
Lima, thank you. departure on the 1100.2. Have a nice
Trying to pick up a few more bumps here as we get closer to the hills, the foothills here. As we get closer to the Rainier Peak.
18 miles north of the airport. Over here, make a box check, right? Go back to the box check. Pretty important information. Back to I did not see 270 on 350-270. Number 40414, you're set down. Right, President 2299, contact data center 128.15 today. 5, looking for a visual straight in runway 34 at the Accord with Whiskey. 05, maintain VSR and exceed the speed and subject back to the Accord, like Accord 7 today. The 5, proceed to VFR, switching south, thanks everything. 8 top Alpha, would like lower. 2753 Lima, traffic 10 o'clock and 6 miles northbound to C-130, 2,610 meters. Okay, looking for traffic, 305. Number 362 Charlie, 73,000. 72,000, number 362 Charlie. That's 24, ready for departure, runway 34. We're going to go to the left here. For 1,000 foot G runway 414, flying at 060, vector CPA air final first course, maintain VFR. Core tower, 05, 10 miles out, visual runway 34. That one's blocked. 370, last 1250. So, number 8 on your station. 3010 and April 605. 713, Lieutenant Pilot Section, maintain level 200. Section 200, Lake 713. Say again for 605. Runway 34. Can you verify, say again? Say again for 605. Okay, altitude, this is VFR, altitude, altitude. Traffic, everything, I think we're running for the first thing. We have normalized altitude.
I think I'm going to try to climb a little bit higher, at least get to a faster rate of climb here. These foothills are a little too close to the bottom of this aircraft for me to stay at the 6,000 foot level. So we'll go up to as high as we can go. We'll try to get to flight level 80 and see if they're 8,000 feet, see if that works. We'll see here.
Advise me ready for your next approach. The 362 HI, did you want to publish this on the front or just a little flat on? If you send via the Crater Clear Bravo landing east, point on altimeter 3008. 3 miles from sand, maintain 2,000, full stop, localizer, cleaned ILS, runway 17 approach. After the completion of the approach, fly runway heading on the maintain 2,000. Tower 205, 5 miles out, runway 34, 2,000. Lima, is the BOA hot tonight too?
I think our airspeed is slowed quite a bit because the nose of our plane is up a little bit. Let me drop this down just a tad bit. Just pick up some speed.
520 left, flighting 360. Captain 20414, turn 10 degrees left. Or 2 degrees left.
Good evening, Husky 24 Heavy, passing 1,300, climbing 3,000, future 6.
We're slightly picking up some speed there.
Approach your contact. Say your approach plus and how will terminate.
Husky 24 is looking for vectors.
Looks like the air has kind of calmed down a bit.
3545, gonna hit a last before.
24 Heavy, roger, set.
Allegiant 713, contact data center 134.95 today. 3495, Allegiant 713.
Wow, that's pretty. Look at that.
Alaska 616, data center
Just about flight level 90.
Husky 24 Heavy, heading 160. Husky 03 ground, engine approved on Juliet 6, 5 from me.
So 530, turn 10 degrees left.
King Jeff on full ground parking, and you gonna be done tonight, or you going back up?
So 520, turn 10 degrees left.
King Jeff, I understand VFR west. Roger that, may be doing more drops than Roger.
Hello there, flight like a tank.
20414, turn left, turn heading at 3.
Yeah, west, you said at 2,500.
For traffic, south, departing open air to the west, down cost of 2,000.
And there's the majestic Mount Rainier. Again, you're looking at photo scenery. If I were to use the default scenery appearance that comes with XPlane, it would not, Mount Rainier would not look anything like this. This is photo scenery that's downloaded from one of your major satellite providers, like Google or Bing. In this case, this is Bing satellite imagery that's providing us the photorealistic images you're seeing here of Mount Rainier, snow and all. And it looks like Mount Rainier should look if you're flying right over it or next to it in a Cessna. It is beautiful.
Heavy, turn right, heading 254.
And just over on the other side of Rainier, I believe that is Mount Adams. It's kind of hard to tell, but generally the Cascades kind of go in this linear direction, starting from Alaska and then heading down the whole coast of Washington State, Oregon, and eventually into California. But the next highest peak after Rainier is should be Adams and then St. Helens. St. Helens, of course, losing most of its summit due to its major eruption it had in 1980. I'm noticing that we're not able to quite see St. Helens yet. At least we won't see it as easily and as readily as we can see Mount Adams here. But as we get to the northeast side of Rainier, we start to see more of the southern skyline, and hopefully we'll be able to see Mount St. Helens. Look at that, you can easily see some of the prehistoric lava flows that occurred on Mount Rainier. Of course, you see the glacier activity right here. That's kind of cool. And you would not be able to see that if we were just using the default XPlane scenery. Oh, I'm getting close to a stall here. Hang on, folks.
Tower Husky 24 Heavy is
this isn't good.
Localizer runway 34 for the full stop.
Let me bring my nose back down here and kind of pick up some speed.
Heavy, clear land, runway 34.
It's one thing that happens when you get close enough to these high peaks and get to where the air is just too thin to give us a reliable lift.
Number 362 Charlie, clear to Pierce County via heading a 180, coming to maintain 4,000.
Head in this direction. Oops, hang on here. Do a heading of 150, I think is good. I think we're okay. We recovered from that. That was close. Still looking for Mount St. Helens. Don't see it yet. Actually, I think that's it over there. From here, you can actually see three peaks, three cascades. Mount Adams here on the left. There's Mount St. Helens over there on the right, a little further south, and just barely off in the distance between the both of them, a little closer to the Mount Adams. That's actually Mount Hood on the other side of the Columbia River in the state of Oregon. So we'll head over, to, of course, to Mount St. Helens and take a look at, and you'll see what that looks like flying just above it. Let's see here. Yep, there's Mount St. Helens. Whoops. Playing with some settings here, so pardon me, folks. Hey, Sterling Y. No, this is not any particular scenery pack. This is all ortho scenery you're looking at. And yeah, this is all ortho scenery coming from Bing. So I use the Ortho 4XP application and spend a lot of time downloading the photo images, the photo imagery, and that's why you're seeing the type of scenery that you are seeing. And as far as the weather that I'm using, the weather application or weather engine, I'm using XEnviro. I'm not using the latest XEnviro because it just beats the heck out of my frame rates. I mean, it eats it up like crazy, the latest version. My understanding is that when they come out with the newest version, and that's supposed to happen sometime in the next couple of months here, that they're supposed to address all that. But what I've seen from some of the previews of it looks pretty incredible. I just don't know what the performance will be like. I don't want to lose any more frame rates, and they've got to start creating weather engines that don't chop off some of your frames. I'm getting a little tired of that. Yeah, ortho is a pain to get acquainted with. Once you understand how to use it, it's kind of worth it. It does eat up your hard drive space, and it does take time to do the downloading. I spent probably about 2 weeks downloading all of Washington State, Oregon, and California. And I have probably filled up oh good, yeah, you're definitely going to need that 10 terabyte drive. I've got 3 hard drives in the system now. I know I have 2, I think I either have 2 1 terabytes or 2 terabytes. Alright, man, I'll be here just to do some more tests. Thanks for stopping by, I appreciate that. Alright, let me do a little bit of a turn here. Keep hitting that too much. And there's Mount St. Helens. You couldn't ask for more clearer, nicer weather, but it is October 17th.
Southwest 1991, contact Delta 121.35, connect.
And we should not be we're not climbing anymore, so we're kind of holding off here, holding at flight level 126 actually. 12,600. That's where we are right now. And we're maintaining a good speed, simply because we aren't climbing. Yeah, I got the stuttering. It's really bad. I got to figure out what is causing that heavy stuttering. It should not be doing that.
Make that request for departure. Contact the departure on the 119.2. Have a good night. Number 362, are you familiar with how to terminate IFR whenever you're ready?
Excuse me.
Departure key in 05, checking in 15 for 2000 off the court.
Mount Rainier over here.
Radar contact. That's 2 o'clock, 3 miles.
I'm sorry, Mount Adams. Sorry about that.
King 5 looking. 05, what else would you like to climb to? Secret 90 to 9 degrees of level speed. Well, sorry, say again? 700 for King 5. 5 right, maintain VFR at or below 3,000. Conrad or below 3,000, keep 05. King 05, will you give me any more drops or flying out southwest there? Yeah, we'll be westbound for helicopter air refueling at 2,500, tracking east and west of course there. 05, bud. Just confirm we're clear to turn westbound at this time. 5 purpose westbound turn. Middle first. Manatee 5 to 500 Papa Sierra Bridge, get altimeter 3011 when able to report the main airport information. Tango. November Delta, Seattle approach country.
Again, the weather has really treated us nicely. I really suspected we'd have a lot more bumps, but had relatively few, if any at all, after we got on the other side of Mount Rainier. It's just really cool air, really smooth air, I should say. Now, the thing that usually happens is as we get close to Mount St. Helens, there's an area that can get a little bumpy, and it's just the nature of just the air around St. Helens at our flight level. So we might see a little bit of that as we get just about a mile or two away from the volcano itself.
And I'll keep you for flight calling and advising so you can advance. Roger that, flight breather. 703-117, Papa Sierra Coast, speed altimeter 301. King 05, so this is for the tower structure there from McCord Tower. What's the furthest I guess you need to be from McCord? Yeah, stand by. Fred, you ready to copy?
Just 989, contact Edison at 135.45, good night.
Lima, Mike 340 at 10, tracking westbound for 50 miles.
6, contact Edison at 134.905, good night.
3495, Aeroméxico, Big Mexico,
Sail, good evening, Horizon 2259, 7,300, climbing 15,000, we're direct to Brazil. 340 radio at 10 evening, and they can extend 50 miles west from that point.
Hey, from.
Ready. Traffic 12 o'clock and 8 miles southwest downtown 58 with 2,300.
805, we'll be looking, we get the monkey gas.
Good evening, 670 out of 25.5, wind level 370.
That's flight 6 miles per minute. The traffic now 11 o'clock. Looks like they're turning more west now. Out to the gate. 2,200, about 6 miles to go back.
Yep, that's our helicopters. We will be refueling. We'll go ahead and declare marshal with them.
I'm not sure the center's going to be able to see out there to the west of that low amendment terrain later, so we're just not using it about 10 miles.
Okay, yeah, just let us know if we fall. Yep, we have no issues with that. And we'll pick you up on our way back to McCord at the end of the day.
Sounds good. The 500 Papa, plan on no range below flat suburb space.
Departure Husky 24 Heavy, passing 1,200, climbing 3,000 on the Puget 6, request vectors, TACAN 16, circle 34.
Husky 24 Heavy, 10% expect that, and on to maintain 2,000, and 2,000.
Maintain 2,000, Husky 24 Heavy.
Alaska 1 before contact Edison at 135.45, good night.
4
Heavy, turn left, heading at 290, vector square right base, Turkey Island.
Left heading 290 for a right base, looking for TACAN 16, circle 34, Husky 24 Heavy.
Easy, perfect. Expect the attack and runway 11, circle 34.
24 Heavy.
Husky 24 Heavy, this speed is full stop.
Affirm for Husky 24 Heavy.
Let's drop us down just a tad bit.
805 service is coming in, truck VFR, and brakes change crew is about 15.
605, we'll switch and we'll talk to you in a little bit. Thanks for the help.
Yeah, noise exit 17 heavy, put down a 11 down with 700 miles, 15 down.
Seminole, 4,500. Heavy Delta, maintain flight level 290.
17 heavy, clear to flight level 290.
And 5 miles southbound.
Dropping down just a little bit in altitude here. We'll try to get down to like 9,000, maybe 9 or 10,000, and head over Spirit Lake.
Turn right, heading 070.
Exiting 070, Husky 24 Heavy.
At the foot of Mount St. Helens, we say that because of the side where the crater, where you can actually see inside the crater. The north face of Mount St. Helens was blasted away during the 1980 major eruption. And when that happened, the whole north side of the volcano collapsed in a at the time considered to be the largest landslide ever recorded in U.S. history. And then what happened when that landslide occurred, it slammed down into Spirit Lake, pushing and shoving all of the water out of its channel onto the surrounding, these hills over here. And these hills were once covered with thick stands of forest. When that water was blasted over them from Spirit Lake, or when I should say when Spirit Lake was blasted out over these hills, it knocked all of the trees off these hillsides, and these hills were just stripped bare, especially the areas closer to the lake. The trees were just ripped off the hillside. And a little further you get, there was less energy, and so those hills were covered with just strands of dead trees, looked like straw scattered all over the hillside. And when the water receded back down into its original channel and Spirit back down into the basin where it came from, it was now a couple hundred feet higher, because most of the debris from Mount St. Helens had basically covered the original bottom of the lake, and it was 200 feet higher. Now the bottom of the lake was 200 feet higher, which means the level of the lake above it was 200 feet higher. So while from the air you can see where Spirit Lake is, but the overall shape of the lake is drastically different. A thing to also notice is in this, you notice all this right here, these are all the remains of the trees that were on the hillsides. After the water went back into its channel, all that timber, all those trees that were ripped from the hillsides went and just flowed back into the lake, and they have been there ever since, floating on the surface of the lake. And they would just change, the position of the logs would just kind of shift over time, given the weather and the winds and all that. So pretty amazing. Here we are flying right toward the north face into the huge amphitheater-like opening on the side of Mount St. Helens. You can actually see the direction of the landslide. This down here used to be a lodge owned by a man named Harry Truman. He used to rent his lodge out to people. They could do boating. Now that's all under hundreds of feet of mud and rock. And of course, they'd never found the owner of the lodge's body. Let's see here. I don't want to end up crashing myself into the volcano, so let me level off here at 9,000 feet.
Alder 2 radar vectors, Alder, Suma, Venice 5, climb to 6, maintain 3,000, expect 190, 5 minutes after departure, 126, 66 on the ground.
This whole area is just covered with forest. Just amazing. There's Mount Adams over there. And of course, Mount St. Helens. Incredible. Now this is obviously an old image. The photo scenery you see here giving us the Mount St. Helens view is rather old because it does not include the lava dome that's now filled the crater. This area of the interior of the crater is now filled with this lava, protrusions of silica-rich lava that's pushed up. Not really glowing or anything like that. It's very old lava, so it's dark, gray, and it's filled in the crater. Not the entire crater, just pretty much this area here. And my understanding is that it's about as high as 2 Empire State Buildings, I believe, stacked end to end, if I remember that correctly. Let's go ahead and turn here just a little bit. Doing a heading of 181 here. As we go around the south side of St. Helens. The elevation of Mount St. Helens is 8,364 feet. And that was after the big May 18th eruption in 1980. It used to be almost 9,700 feet until that day in May, that day in April. I'm sorry, in 1980. Look at all the debris on the side of the cone. It is now a National Volcanic Monument Park, so you can actually go to Mount St. Helens, and you actually have to get a permit to be able to, but you can climb it, but you have to have a permit to do that. I believe they let you come up the south side of the cone here. And again here you can see some prehistoric lava flows that have hardened. These are not from the 1980 eruption, these are from I'd say a couple hundred years ago, some eruptions, maybe even longer than that. Mount St. Helens was very active even before 1980, several hundred years before 1980. Please, Sterling. Alright, I'm going to take it off the AP for just a second. Yeah, I know. This is, let's see here, I'm trying to remember the name of this lake. That's here. This is either Swift Reservoir or Yale Lake. I can never remember. Let's see here. This is the Swift Reservoir. Yeah. Swift Reservoir, that's what that is right there. Mount Adams. And, of course, St. Helens. Yeah, you can really see those prehistoric lava flows. It's amazing that people were a little surprised when they'd heard that Mount St. Helens had erupted, and when they saw the eruption back in 1980. I mean, you've got history. I mean, you can see the history right here just in this geology that we're looking at here, showing the lava flows from this volcano. Should have never been a surprise to anybody. Here's one of these kind of hard to see there, the difference in the ortho scenery. It's where they connect the photos together, and the satellites are doing that. You can see the delineation of the two images that they had to crop together to continue when they were making the photos, or when they were putting them together. And you can also see the forestry, the field work, and the agriculture. You can also see just the amount of devastation that Mount St. Helens did. The areas that look very much like desert. The forests removed from the hillsides because of the lateral blast. So it's quite remarkable, actually. Definitely something that was worth paying attention to when it happened. And I do remember the breaking news when it occurred in 1980. But of course, Washington State, they had been getting all kinds of clues that Mount St. Helens was going to do something pretty big and pretty real, and pretty significant. It kind of gave quite a few warnings. The whole activity started back in March, just a few months before the May 18th eruption, the big one. And I think like late March, it started having increasing earthquakes, and then it had a small eruption a few weeks later in April. Was kind of the second big clue that this volcano means business, because that eruption kind of tore a giant-sized crater in the summit. And hang on here, make one loop, another loop around. So yeah, it's started giving indications as early as March, and I think instrumentally before that. But as far as anything obvious, in March, and then in April it had the first its first eruption. I believe it was April 11th, if I'm not mistaken. It blew a nice little crater out of the top of the summit. And when that happened, of course, it sent a nice cloud kind of out in this area. It dumped a little bit of ash on some of the surrounding towns. But I think the scientists knew something was up, and of course, that's when they started sending a bunch of scientists to start studying Mount St. Helens, try to start paying a little bit more closer attention to it. And then it had another sort of small eruption in April, and then served the big main course on May 18th, 1980. Shift around here. There it is. Yeah, it started early March, and by April you started seeing, which was kind of a freaky thing, the whole north side. Now this is the side of the volcano that's actually missing right now, which you can't see because it's gone. It was blown away. But in March, it started swelling on that side. It was really unusual, and it kind of looked ominous because you could just see that there were all these cracks starting to form on that side of the volcano. And so they started referring to it as the bulge, and it looked just like a bulge on the side of the volcano. And it was growing at about 5 feet a day. No, I'm not from that area. I did live in Washington State for a couple of years. Probably a couple of years after Mount St. Helens erupted. I went to school up there, and first time I'd ever seen it snow. But I lived in an area, let me see if I can kind of give you a little bit of a direction here. Let me zoom out a little bit. Okay, so this is Mount St. Helens here, and Mount Adams here. So I lived, if you keep going straight out in this direction, at about there. So we could not see Mount St. Helens because Mount Adams was blocking our view. We could see Mount Adams beautifully. When I would go in my backyard, I remember going out in my backyard, and it was just right there at Mount Adams. It just felt like we could probably walk to it. So yeah, it kind of hindered our view from seeing Mount St. Helens. If Mount Adams weren't there, we'd be able to see the cone of Mount St. Helens, but couldn't see it. But I could see Mount Adams, and on a clear day, we could see Mount Rainier. The resolution's not doing too good over there, but yeah, that's the way it all worked out. And of course, that's Mount Hood in Oregon, just on the other side of the Columbia River here. You can just barely see it. But yeah, so I did live a few years in Washington State. I still have relatives up there in Spokane. The town we lived in was called Grandview. Very small town. Nobody ever knows where it is. Not too far, maybe about 80 miles from Yakima, Washington. But I always talked to my grandparents up there, and they always would tell me about the day it erupted and what it looked like, and seeing that cloud enveloping the area and seeing the cloud approaching. Because as you can look, as we zoom out here, where's my plane at actually? Oh, there we are. We're going south. Okay. I have to turn here. You can tell, just look at the impact that the cloud had and the eruption had on the surrounding area. Just especially on this side of the volcano, because that's the side that got the brunt of the explosion. And then the cloud just kind of drifted out across much of the state of Washington toward the east into Montana and some of the other states. But pretty incredible natural event. I think I got interested in geology, I think, after that had happened. It was kind of an interesting thing to see that. But interesting to note that I know we're talking about volcanoes, but earthquakes, since I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area, today is actually the anniversary of our Loma Prieta earthquake that we had in 1989. It was October 17th. So, just thought that was interesting. But, yeah, that was a very interesting day as well. My first time ever feeling a 7 or a 6.9 earthquake, or at least feeling what a 6.9 feels like when you're at some distance. Let me make that clear, because to me that earthquake was not really, when I felt it, it was not really a violent quake. It was not really shaking like you see in a lot of movies. It was more of a gentle rolling motion. very slow, rolling circular. Now, it moved a lot. I mean, it would have easily knocked over cups and anything on the table, any loose things. But it was not a hard, violent type of shake. It was very smooth, very rolling. But it just went on for quite a while, so I knew at that point that it had to be a pretty significant quake, but it was just that it was just far away from us, and that's the reason why we didn't get as heavy of the shaking as some of the areas that were much closer to the epicenter, like Santa Cruz, and of course, which had heavy damage, and then you had sort of isolated spots around the Bay Area that was on these exceptional kind of unique types of geology. You know, Oakland had a double-decker freeway that was built on some of the bay mud, and that just shakes like crazy in an earthquake. And sure enough, that's what happened. We had to collapse that double-decker freeway. Most of the people that died in that earthquake were killed there. If it weren't for the freeway, we probably would have had about maybe 20 people that were killed, but instead we had about 60, so I think over 60 people that were killed from that earthquake. And then you had a few isolated spots in San Francisco. You had the big fire and collapsed buildings in parts of San Francisco. But that was not the case for the entire city. Most of the city was fine. But of course, as you went closer to Santa Cruz and the Santa Cruz Mountains where the epicenter was, you know, it was quite a different story. Los Gatos, SoCal, all those mountain communities down there near Santa Cruz suffered heavy damage from that earthquake. So. But in the 80s, I was not down in the Bay Area when they had their most recent bad earthquake, the Napa quake. Although that was only a 6. I say only a 6 because that's not as strong as they can get in the Bay Area, so one should never think that that's as bad as it can get. I think it did, however, kill, I think, 1 or 2 people, that earthquake back in Napa. That hit a few years ago. I think, was it 5 years ago, 6 years ago? But, yes. Okay, let's see here. I have to try to figure out the airports in this area. I don't know them very well because I usually fly in the Bay Area. I was just doing this test flight just to kind of test the scenery and to make sure that see how my frame rates were doing. Let's see here. I don't even know where the airports are in this area. Let's take a look here. Oh, there's our closest airport, KCDX. It's quite a ways away. About 100 miles. Well, less than that, maybe about 50 miles.
West 3625, simultaneous flight level 370. Kyle 351, we'll cross touch and go, and we'll be a call back to 043 as well. Roger, and main tower is closed. You can expect the ILS to runway 16 right, and you can just don't forget to cancel with the course controller. Expect ILS continue 16 right, 121. 121, you're clear to Green Airport. We have in 360, maintain 4,000. 360, 4,000, 321.
You know, I've never used the GPS for landing. Yeah, I'm used to doing the approaches, the ILS approaches in like 737. I know in the Cessnas you have to do things a little bit more on a manual basis, but yeah, I've never done that. And I guess I should probably mention this, that I'm definitely not a pilot, as you can most likely tell. But I've been doing the flight simulation thing for quite a while, since the early days of Microsoft Flight Simulator. Obviously this is not Microsoft's. I think I've kind of graduated from Microsoft. Actually, I was a Prepare 3D user for years, and never thought I would ever leave P3D. Okay, let me take a look here.
Skyward 3625, contact Center 135.45, good night.
Oh, the large, oops, hang on here, let me... So these are obviously the... Oh, there we go, okay. Nearest airports, let me see here. Oops. Should I do KKLS? Let's see, that's 26 miles. That might be a little too short. What do you think? It's 4-4. Oh, one is 4-4 way. Let me go back up here. Yeah, that's probably not going to do it. Let's see here. You think KKLS would be... Yeah, definitely got plenty of fuel. You think KKLS would be too far? Around 25 away? Okay, so let's see here. RX. Oh, that's a waypoint. Let me see here. KPDX. We can go to Portland. What do you think of KPDX? We're at 26.8 right now. Alright, looks like I'm getting a little further away from it. Alright. And then once I select it, looks like enter doesn't really do anything. What do you do at that point? Oh, that's right, the direct to. There we go.
Check Canada 559, descend upon the pressure, ticket level 280. 280, miles pressure, Canada 559.
And then activate, right?
United 460, descend upon the pressure, maintain level 280. 80 to 280, United 460.
And then activate the autopilot, or no?
Canada 559, contact Seattle Center 134.905, good night. 34 to 95, Canada 559.
Hit CDI, okay. Oh, okay. So on the Garmin, it's got to say GPS, right? So AP is activated. Okay, cool. That's what I thought. Alrighty, awesome. Oh, I was going completely south. Don't want to. V-lock for this. Okay, let me turn that one off here.
United 460, contact Seattle Center 134.905, good night. 34.95.
Do I have V-lock on right now? I don't think I do I? Oh, okay, gotcha, yeah. Alright. Right, gotcha, okay, yep. Gotcha. Okay, so I can still use that vertical speed and kind of keep tweaking that on my way down during the descent. Oh, okay. All right. Let me take a look here. All right, and we should we should pick up some better quality of scenery as well as we get closer. At what I did with the ortho scenery, just to go back to that real quick. I had set up the application an Ortho 4XP to use the resolution, which I think is a pretty good balance for not downloading so many heavy files. Hang on here. And did not know you could do ILS in a 172. Did not know that. Let's see. What do you think? What should I try? What do you think the easiest would be, given the amount of time I have to the airport, to KPX? Think ILS? Okay, yeah, I can do that. Or at least I could try to do that. They give me a good chance to practice my manual landing skills. I guess as I get close, I can always do a traffic pattern approach, just to help myself get lined up, and then bring it down, perhaps. Actually take a look at it. I always have to kind of review all the scenery just to make sure it's okay. All right. The level of the zoom level that I downloaded for most of the scenery is 17, and then as you get closer to the airports, I've increased it to 18. Let me take a look here and see. That's BTG. Oh, that's the BTG is the next. Looks like it's a VOR coming up over here to my right. All right, let me see where 17 is. You mean runway 17 at PDX? Is that not showing runway 17? I show 10 left, 28 right, 10 right, 28 left. Well, there's 10 left and right and 28 right, left and right, and then 3 and 21. I do not see 17. Oh, I guess. Yeah, 17 is pretty good for. That's about the best, I think, as far as the balance goes. I had 18. I had downloaded pretty much 18, but I could only squeeze in just the 3 states: Washington, Oregon, California, and I think that took up 2 hard drives. I think it took up about 2 hard drives. But now I've got that, and I've still got room for another if I were going to do Florida. I've got parts of Syracuse and New York, because I have a niece that lives out there, and I have parts of Baja California. I'm trying to remember what else do I have. I think Florida. So what else I got? I think that's the one big chunk I have. I'm not sure what. The other one's Colorado. I've got Denver, Colorado, because it's kind of fun flying over there and flying through the turbulence as you're going over the Rockies. I should do the rest of Colorado. I don't have the full state. I think I've got about 80% of it. But yeah, it's a hard thing, because you've got to always be concerned about that drive space. So, all right, how high am I? Yeah, I think I'm way too high. Let me bring myself down just a little bit here. Is that our airport there? Oh my gosh, that's our airport there. That was a little faster than I thought it was. All right. Yeah, I just realized I wasn't paying attention to my altitude. So maybe I'll try to fly way out and then come back as I gradually descend. Alaska 435, contact celebration 125.6. Picking up the winds finally.
99, climb making 15,000. Report tail center, climb maintain call 410. Departure with traffic, climb making 15,000. 5737 to 70 of the 7 arrival, running south, CL altimeter 3010. Contact Taylor first, 125.6. 934, contact CL center, 132.07.
I think we're almost down at 4,000 feet here.
Good, 99 Cold Center, 125.1 today. Southwest 1346 Litter, Rogue Valley. Delta 6701, contact Delta first, 125.3. Flight 2277, good evening. RV 2058, 6 squared. Squawk to 0374, stay with us. That's 471, 7 good morning, clear, direct. Awesome speed. And stay tight landing and tight helicopter. Yep. Army 586, thank you to VFR, flighting 020. This will be a VA approach to runway 15. Skyward 3642, call the center 126.6. 125.6, have a good day.
Yes, and it's Skyward 3642 to 7,700, climbing 15,000.
Skyward 3642, Sierra 10, flight level 35, you're on.
Climb maintain, flight level 350, Skyward 3642.
We're going to contact hover shortly for crossing traffic.
Yep.
Lima Papa, squawk 3515. Which number is that? 0 Papa radar contact, maintain the VFR, stand altimeter 3010. Zero Papa, what's your altimeter? RV 6 radar contact lost, expect re-rate radar identification in 5 to 1 0.
Is that an airport? Yeah, I think you're right.
Delta 5737, contact set approach on 125.6. Have a good day.
That's not our airport. I thought that was an airport. Well, we'll put it down on train tracks.
2376 departure, radar contact, climate maintain 5000.
Transponder set to standby.
You know, I'm not
Well, that's
quite set up for a supercut on
yeah, I would say definitely way too fast, and also at the wrong landing site. That I mistakenly thought that was the airport. Turned out that's a, I guess it's some sort of railway system depot or something. Well, that was definitely interesting. So we'll definitely be doing more of that practice. But appreciate that help there, Sterling. That's the first time I've ever done that with using the GPS and doing that in the Cessna. Yeah, usually I'm in doing the ILS and 737 and doing that whole thing with the FMC and all that. But one of the things I definitely want to do is spend more time practicing approaches in the Cessna and using the GPS. Let's see here.
2376, turn right, heading 320, contact approach on 125.6.
What the heck is this? Yeah, it's a train depot. Where's PDX?
3545, Skywest 3642, good day.
Oh, it's over there.
9471, thanks, sir. 1344, contact.
Oh yeah, I love Q8 Pilot. Yeah, he's amazing. Actually, I learned quite a bit. Yeah, I knew he was a P3D user as well. Yeah, it's funny because like I said, I swore I would never leave Prepare 3D, and somebody at where I work, the guy doesn't even do Flight Simulator. He said he'd heard about XPlane, and I'd heard about it for years. It just, and I think I even tried it at one point, but the graphic interface and the menu system was just terrible, and I'm like, who the heck knows how to even get around the menu system? And then they just completely redid it, and I was sold at that point. The other thing too that I liked about XPlane was the night lighting was just, I felt it was superb, and you didn't have to have add-ons to bring out the really good night lighting, and it just looked more realistic. And I'm like, why can't they do that in Microsoft? Why can't they do that in P3D? You had to have a bunch of add-ons to make the night lighting look really superb on Prepare 3D. Prepare 3D. But my understanding is they got some new stuff out to make that happen. But no, I'll still never go back to Prepare 3D. Nothing against them, but I just XPlane is I just enjoy how they modeled everything, and seems like they've kind of got it figured out. Really need to figure out what helps our frame rates, though. I'm still, I'm running an i7 7700K and with a 1070 graphics card, and still you can see just watching the video how I can still get these stutters, which I'm not sure what's causing that, and I'll have to check my antivirus and see if that's doing anything. It shouldn't, but I'll need to check and see what's causing the stutters, because I was not dealing with that before. Before it was just general frame rate droppage, but now I'm getting this stuttering problem, which I don't know what's causing that, so I'll have to take a look at that. But anyway, guys, I'm done for the night, and I'll call it a night, and try to do some more sometime this week. Don't know when. I don't really have a schedule. They just kind of pop up when I have the chance to do it. But I'm trying to do it just about every other day when I can. Yeah, but hey, Sterling, thank you. Appreciate the help there, and hopefully you will be around in the future in case I need to summon for your assistance. Certainly appreciated that, and everyone else out there, anyone else who might have been in the chat, Cowboy AZ, I do see you there, and Flight Like a Tank, I think I see you there as well. I'm not sure if you're still there. But thanks for dropping in, and hope to see you guys, catch you later. Have a good one as well. Good night.